Welcome to Ruffing the Past, the show where I talk football, miscellaneous stuff, sometimes live golf, and mostly football. I am your host, Sam Ruffing, and on today we have the deadlines for franchise tagging across the NFL, where teams make a decision on whether or not they want to keep a player for an extra year, guaranteed without the idea of losing him, or they just want to let him walk in free agency or resign with the franchise tag. And of course, because of this, we've had more than a few players be franchise tagged. Some of them are interesting. And we also have some quarterback signings and non-signings recently that will be quite interesting indeed. Today, I want to start off with the late-ish breaking news that the Ravens will not be re-signing Lamar Jackson as of right now. They had the deadline today at 4 p.m. to place the franchise tag on Lamar Jackson or work out a deal, and they have decided to place the franchise tag on Lamar Jackson. Now, there are two options when it comes to this franchise tag. You have the exclusive franchise tag, which means you pay the quarterback top 5 salary, within the top 5 salary of their position, and he has to stick with the team unless he's traded. There's also the non-exclusive franchise tag, which means that the player who signed with it is currently signed to their team, say Lamar Jackson with the Ravens. However, other teams can interview him and offer him a contract. And if he accepts that contract and the Ravens do not match that offer, then the other team will have to give up 2 first-round picks. I don't know how that system works exactly, how they decide how many picks goes where, but Lamar Jackson has been placed with the non-exclusive franchise tag, and that is the breaking news. Now, over the last 2 seasons, there have been rumors and reports of the Ravens, Lamar trying to get a deal done. The Ravens want Lamar on a more team-friendly contract, probably $160 million guaranteed, with like $250 million total, be my guess. Something like Russell Wilson got in Denver. While Lamar Jackson wants $230 plus $250 million-ish, fully guaranteed, like Deshaun Watson got in Cleveland, to stick with the team. And that has been a point of contention for both sides over the last, 2 seasons. And it's been a back and forth war. Lamar Jackson, being an injury-prone player, wants all that guaranteed money so that he doesn't have to worry about if he gets hurt, he's not going to get paid. The Ravens obviously don't want to be tied up all their cap space, basically, to one player, which is fair enough. But if I were the Baltimore Ravens, I would be signing Lamar Jackson right now, right this instant. I mean, he's a guy who, as a quarterback, came up with the Ravens, people are very skeptical on him. I thought he looked great out of the draft, even though I wasn't doing any football coverage back then. I was just a casual fan. But I'm like, man, that dude was great in college, and turns out he had a great rookie season, or at least towards the end. He threw 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but he ran everywhere. He was explosive. And they did lose that wild card game, but the next year he came back looking completely different. He set the NFL record for rushing yards in a season, which I'm not sure if Justin Fields is broken or not. My editor, myself, will put that up in the top corner. But, anyways, he set the record for rushing yards in a season with like 1,300, as a quarterback, I mean. And threw for 36 touchdowns, ran for a few touchdowns, and got the Ravens, himself, the league MVP, and the Ravens the number 1 seed in the NFL, where they lost in the playoffs to the Titans, who had just defeated Tom Brady in his last game as a Patriot. Which is interesting, I guess. But he's been a standout player for the Ravens. He came back in 2020. He didn't have quite as good a year, but he led them back to the playoffs. And he beat the Tennessee Titans in the wild card, getting that revenge, and he then lost to Buffalo at home. On the road, in the divisional round. But that game, I think Lamar suffered a concussion, so he didn't get to play all of it. And the Bills were a great team that year, so it wasn't too bad. 2021, the Ravens started out hot. Lamar, of course, was great until he got injured late in the year, and then they barely missed the playoffs. And then this last season, because of the contract dispute, when Lamar got hurt later, he did not want to come out and play and risk a long-term injury. And so that lingered on the season. And there have been feuds between the Ravens and Lamar. Lamar did not play the playoff game that the Ravens faced against the Cincinnati Bengals, which they only lost because of a fluke play of Sam Hubbard taking it all 99 yards to the house. So both sides are mad at each other pretty much. Lamar wants to get paid, and you should pay him. This man, as a quarterback, has won the Ravens 75% of the games he starts. If you look at the Ravens' record without him, they're not that good. I mean, dating back to the Super Bowl, I think they have a losing record without Lamar. I mean, the Super Bowl where they won with Joe Flacco. When he plays, he's basically a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I mean, I'd say he's top 4 in the AFC right now. And, the AFC is absolutely stacked at quarterback. For me, it'd go Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar, Lawrence, Herbert, He's great there. Great quarterback. He's basically their entire offense because he's so dynamic running. He's so dynamic even passing, which people didn't think he'd do, but he just got great stats passing. And also, the Ravens make this whole excuse up like, oh, I don't know if we want to pay him because we can't pay other players, when they haven't given Lamar Jackson crap at receiver besides, tight end Mark Andrews. And, dating back to 2018, the 5 worst teams in terms of spending on offensive side of the ball, the Ravens were dead last in the league. Number 32. They spend the least amount of money on offense, the side Lamar plays on. So no wonder why he doesn't have any weapons. Now that he's not developing them, like people somehow seem to say, it's because they don't give him weapons. So if you're not going to give him weapons, then you might as well pay him the $200+ million guaranteed that he wants. Now, I completely understand from the Ravens' point of view that you do not want to be trapped with a big contract, because we've seen players get huge contracts before and it's gone not well, like Rodgers getting a huge contract and Garoppolo getting a huge contract. Well, yes, they played well. They haven't won a Super Bowl. Russell Wilson last season in Denver got that massive $250 million contract with $160 guaranteed, and look what happened to him. And I hated that contract at the time, I will not lie. Because it was just too much, because you can't build a team around that. However, you haven't built a team around Lamar at all. Without him, you just fall apart completely. So what's the difference? Just give him the money. Try and convince him to take $180 million guaranteed and $270 million total. I think that would be perfectly fine. But pay Lamar Jackson. The man has earned it. Without him, you're a franchise that's you're okay. And sure, you could let him walk away for 2 first-rounders and draft a quarterback, but if I were them, I'd just pay him, because Lamar Jacksons do not grow on trees and only come around very, very rarely. Remember when we were talking about Lamar Jackson being the arch rival to Patrick Mahomes? Obviously, lately it's been Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, but it's because Lamar's been hurt the past 2 years. If Lamar doesn't get hurt, he and Mahomes are going at it for those Super Bowls, I'm telling you. That's my 2 cents. Now, where do I think that Lamar Jackson could go? There are 2 possible contenders out there for whom could sign Lamar Jackson. And here they are. I think that the New York Jets, who have been rumored to Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers, would be absolutely remiss not to at least talk to Lamar Jackson. The Jets haven't had a quarterback since Joe Namath. That's not true. That guy in the 80s, I can't remember his name, but he's drafted over Marino. Even though he was drafted over Marino, it was pretty good. However, as I say, The Jets would be a great fit for Lamar Jackson. They got weapons. They have Elijah Moore. They had that rookie, I can't remember his name, who won the, Offensive Rookie of the Year. They have a great defense and a defensive head coach. They have that running back, who, again, I can't remember his name because the Jets are just so boring. It's hard to remember anything. They were struggling at quarterback last year with Zach Wilson. They haven't won the division since 2000 ever. I don't remember the last time they won the division. But if you bring in a guy like Lamar Jackson, you would instantly have the second best quarterback in the division, maybe the best. And that's a division in which you have to face Bill Belichick twice a year, who you haven't beaten since 2015. You have to face Josh Allen twice a year, who's, second or third best quarterback in the NFL. You have to face Tua Tagovailoa, who has had a winning record every single season he started, and was great last year until he got hurt with concussions. The Jets haven't had a quarterback who's played decently since Mark Sanchez. If you bring in Lamar Jackson, you have the second best quarterback. And trust me, in a quarterback league, you need to get a good quarterback to win the division. It's generally not going to happen that a team with the second best quarterback in the division or third best quarterback in the division, wins it. Except for, Seattle last year, but that's because Kyler got hurt and the Cardinals were a mess, and Matthew Stafford and the Rams were a mess. So Geno Smith won the division, obviously. Well, he got second in the division. Brock Purdy was the fourth best quarterback in that division. He won it. That was a rare exception. Everyone else, Tom Brady was winning the South. Mahomes was winning the West. Rodgers didn't win the North, but that was a bad year. They're outliers, obviously. Trevor Lawrence won the South. Burrow won the North. If you have Lamar Jackson, he could finally compete with those other three teams in your division, which has suddenly become surprisingly good, which is shocking. I mean, you'd have a contemporary to Belichick, to Mahomes, not Mahomes. No, you would have one to Mahomes, to Allen, to Tua. You could finally compete with that defense and Sauce Gardner. You wouldn't have to rely on Zach Wilson being better than average, or at least average. I think it'd make perfect sense. Another team that has been rumored for Lamar Jackson to trade with is now the Las Vegas Raiders, whom have just recently released Derek Carr, their longtime starter. And honestly, if I'm the Raiders, I'd also go after Lamar Jackson. Heck, if I'm most teams in the NFL, I'm going after Lamar Jackson. I mean, the man is just great. But for the Raiders, he can move on from Derek Carr, who has been mediocre and overrated for the past 9 years, and finally get a quarterback that's actually good and underrated even. Who can help you compete in a division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and hopefully a revitalized Russell Wilson with Sean Payton. I have no clue if that will happen. I hope it does. But anyways, they just hired Josh McDaniels last year, and it was a terrible disaster. He obviously ran out the quarterback, but you have Devontae Adams, you have Darren Waller, you have Hunter Renfrow, you have a decent O-line, you have Josh Jacobs. If you put Lamar Jackson in there, obviously it's going to succeed well. Even with Josh McDaniels as head coach, you could win at least 9 games. And maybe sneak into the wild card round. Or who knows? Going against Patrick Mahomes twice a year with Lamar now, you could actually sneak in a division win. Who can say? But I think that'd be a good pick. If I were the Raiders, I'd just 2 firsts? Sure, we're not going to draft anybody good with those. Take them, Baltimore. You can have them. We'll take Lamar off your hands. And pay him $250 million guaranteed. Goodness knows Vegas has lots of cap space, I think. Actually, they might not have lots of cap space, but I feel like they could afford him somewhere. I think now those 2 teams would be my top picks to sign Lamar Jackson personally. Now on to even more or less later breaking news. The New Orleans Saints have signed Derek Carr to a 4-year, $150 million contract with $100 million guaranteed. Why? Why did they sign a guy who over his career has had 1 playoff appearance, 0 playoff wins, a losing record statistically, and okay but not great stats. I know the media and everyone else is going to praise this move as brilliant. Yeah, you finally got a decent upgrade over Andy Dalton. But I just think that the Saints settled hard here. I mean, settled really, really hard. Sure, you're in a division that has the Tampa Bay Buccaneers without Tom Brady now, who won the division 8 and 9. You have the Atlanta Falcons with Desmond Ridder, who knows, and the Panthers almost won the division, but they're the Panthers. And I understand you needed a quarterback because your head coach is on the hot seat and he just needs to get some wins. But Derek Carr has been, to say the least, disappointing. I mean, in his 9 years of supposedly being a great franchise quarterback, I don't know, people say he's top 12, and I'm just like, how is he a top 12 quarterback? He hasn't won a division. He has only made the playoffs once, as mentioned, and only had like one great statistical year where he was considered an MVP candidate until he got injured, and he probably would have won a playoff game there, but he hasn't won a division. And when he was returned healthy after that MVP-like campaign in 2017, he didn't win the division there either, despite having basically the same team, the same great O-line, same great receivers. And he's a kind of quarterback that you need to build a great roster around to go places, not have him show up and bring you places. And if you look at the Raiders roster over the last few years, it's been pretty decent on offense. I mean, Darren Waller, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, Hunter Renfrow, a decent O-line. They had an offensive coach. You know what Derek Carr put up in terms of numbers last year? 24 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Maybe 4,000 yards passing? I don't know. It was a really weak campaign for a guy who got Devontae Adams, who had 17 touchdown passes a few seasons ago. I mean, not touchdown passes, receiving touchdowns. And you can't do more than that. In 2016, 2015, 2017, he had Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper. They did trade Amari Cooper in 2017, didn't they? They had Latavius Murray in 2016. He was going off. And they had a great O-line. And they made the playoffs once, which he was injured for. I'll give him that. But the second season, in 2017, he played mediocre football and lost it. Yeah. 2018 was John Gruden's year, so that's fair. But for a guy who's claimed to be a franchise quarterback by everybody else, I really don't get this move. It just... The Saints are in a horrible position right now. Their cap space is at negative $16 million. Not positive, negative $16 million. They're going to have to cut players that are decent, but just they need to go because they can't. They need to save cash right now. And about the weapons thing, the Saints have Chris Olave and Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill's obviously a great gadget guy, and Chris Olave looks like a burgeoning, bursting onto the scene star at receiver. However, beyond that, Michael Thomas hasn't played, 10 games in the last 3 seasons, and is expensive. He's old. He's probably going to get cut because they need money. Their great running back, Alvin Kamara, has had off-the-field issues with that, beating up that guy in the elevator. I don't know what's going to be up with him, but there are a lot of reports that he'll probably be cut. They're going to have to cut some other players on offense and defense. This team is in a horrible position right now, so you're going to give Derek Carr a decent O-line. I'm not even sure if it's decent. And Chris Olave, Taysom Hill. That's it. And I know I made fun of the division earlier, but the Panthers started out 1-4, finished 7-10. Almost won the division. Would have won the division if Sam Darnold wasn't starting that final game. Pretty much. I mean, they also upgraded a head coach. Well, Steve Wilkes was pretty good last year at 6-6. Frank Wright has won the division in Indy. He's been to the playoffs a few times. He has a winning record. He's obviously an upgrade over Matt Rule. The Panthers will be better. Even if they get like a rookie quarterback, start Sam Darnold again. I can't believe I'm saying this. Or just bring in a nice veteran like Jimmy G. I feel like Jimmy G would work there perfectly. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers supposedly are interested in Baker Mayfield. And Baker in Tampa with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and a decent O-line running back core. A good, really, really good defense. I'm just saying, I like Baker more than Derek Carr. Not as maybe a franchise guy. I don't know. Maybe I just like Baker. But, like, if it's a big game, it's late in the year, and it comes down to Baker versus Derek Carr, I might pick Baker. Baker could definitely lead the Bucs team to 9 wins. And then the Falcons have Desmond Ridder. Now, Desmond Ridder was an okay rookie, but he didn't have any turnovers, or at least no interceptions, maybe fumbles. He looked pretty decent out there for a guy who came in a quarterback class that was low-key, just low-key. So, I know they say quarterbacks, it's a quarterback league, like I said earlier, and currently Derek Carr is the best quarterback in the division, but like he was supposed to be the best quarterback in the division in 2017. I guess you could argue Phillip Rivers was back then. Did he win the division? No, he played terribly. Alex Smith won the division. Yes, Alex Smith had a great year, but like the Raiders are coming off a 12-4 season. You think they could have played a little better. And so, when you're paying Derek Carr $100 million guaranteed over 4 years, and you got no cap space, you got no weapons right now, I don't understand why you'd pay him that and not just. I mean, you got a first-round pick from Sean Payton because you traded your first-round pick to the Eagles last year, but you got the Niners pick from Denver, from Miami, because you traded yours to the Eagles and Sean Payton went to Denver and you got that in return. The Saints have a first-round pick now, after not having a first-round pick, as is mentioned anyways. So why not, with your limited cap space, actually negative cap space, the fact that your roster is going to be gutted, why not just trade players away like Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, other great defensive players like Demario Davis, and then just draft a quarterback late the first round like Max Duggan or the guy out of Tennessee. He looked really good. Maybe you can finagle something to get up and get Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. Why not do that and just rebuild since you have no cap space, instead of trying to sign a guy who may take you to the playoffs and may get you a home playoff game, but isn't going to do much because the one playoff game he played, he had a chance to win and he didn't. I don't get this move by the Saints. I think it was not a great signing, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the fact that Derek Carr is no longer with the dysfunctional Las Vegas Raiders and he's actually in a semi-stable situation will help him, like it did Matt Stafford, but I don't see him being a Super Bowl quarterback. I see maybe a few playoff appearances at best, and divisional round at best, before getting the boot a few years later when the Saints draft a new quarterback. But that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments below on whether or not you thought the Saints made a good signing by signing Derek Carr. I personally don't, but if you do like that, then let me know. The PGA Tour has announced changes coming to their 2024 schedule, including exclusive tournaments for 70 to 78 players with no cut. So every player gets to play all 4 rounds and gets guaranteed money. This will include their top 50 players in the world or whatever, their top players over the last FedEx Cup season and winners. And there will be no cut. Where have I heard this before? Oh yeah, that's right. That's what LIV does basically. They have an exclusive limited field event, 48 players, and there's no cut and guaranteed money. Only it's played over 54 holes, not 72. And I just find this the height of absolute irony that the PGA Tour and all its players who are calling out LIV Golf for being, oh, it's not competitive, the players get paid up front, and well, now players on the PGA Tour covers the cost of getting cut, so if you get cut from a tournament, they pay for it instead of losing $5,000. Oh, it's not competitive, they get paid up front. Well, now they have bonuses like, the PIP money gets, whoever's name searched enough, they get a lot of money. Oh, it's not competitive because it has a limited field. Now they have tournaments with limited fields. Oh, it's not competitive, there's no cut. And now they have tournaments with no cuts. This is just absolutely beautiful to see. That the PGA Tour and all its fans calling LIV Golf stupid and dumb because it's not, and how it's not competitive because they don't have a cut. Oh, you need a cut apparently to decide whether or not it's competitive instead of just whoever's fighting for first place. Yeah, that's definitely what decides what's competitive or not. Who gives a crap? Anyways, now all those people can stick it because the PGA Tour is doing the same. And one by one, their excuses for why LIV Golf is not competitive are just flying out the window. And this has actually been called out by PGA Tour player James Hahn, who was like, these are stupid. These are stupid changes. Why do we have a field with no cut? And like, hey, congrats sticking to your guns, man. I like that you're calling out the tour that called out the other tour. Good for ya. And of course, Rory McIlroy, the most staunch anti-LIV golfer in the world, is like, oh, this is great, no cut. And now he was so anti-LIV, and now he's like, actually, LIV Golf really helped the tour. I mean, we wouldn't have these changes where players are getting paid more and all that without LIV Golf. Oh, now you're coming around. I just absolutely love it. And also, if now that we have, PGA tournaments with no cut and limited fields that are probably going to get official world golf ranking points that will probably be worth more than, say, any European Tour event ever will be now, thanks to the new stupid changes made. Can the LIV Golf community have world ranking points? Because it's been a year. They've had competitive golf. Apparently a cut doesn't matter. Getting paid up front basically doesn't matter because if you play in these tournaments, you're going to get paid no matter what. Also, I just realized the entire argument for being paid up front is so stupid because if players go and play abroad outside the United States, they can take pay fee. They can get, paid by tournaments to show up, basically. So, like, if Tiger Woods were going to play in the Dubai Desert Classic or whatever, he would have gotten paid like $2 million by the tournament. He can accept tournament fees and still show up and play. But, getting a contract from a tour to play there is apparently really, really bad. I just don't get it. It's utterly ridiculous. But, LIV Golf now has, obviously, great players like Dustin Johnson and Cameron Smith and Phil Mickelson. Okay, it wasn't great, but you get the idea. They got great players. And they don't have official world golf ranking points, but these lowly tournaments in the PGA Tour, like the Slot Machine Open in Las Vegas and the Wine Country Open, get it. And now all their talking points of why LIV doesn't get OWGR points is just gone out the window and is completely stupid. Just give them the world ranking points already. And I just laugh at the irony of the hypocrisy, more like. It's actually hypocrisy, not irony, of the PGA Tour now doing what LIV is pretty much doing, only without the contracts. It's just funny to me. Now if they get some team tournaments in there, well, there you go. Fun little tidbit. And some small news. The LIV Golf played their first tournament of the year at Mayakoba a week ago or so. And they debuted on the CW, and after initial reports of what was kind of boring a tournament, I'll admit, because it was the first tournament of the year, and Charles Howell just shot out to a big lead. No one's really contesting him. Viewing figures came in, and apparently they came in at 300,000 views, which is not a lot of views at all. And of course, because golf wants, and the PGA Tour, who wants to keep their monopoly and has, all the media on their side, they love to make fun of LIV Golf for that. Haha, 300,000 viewers, while our Honda Classic got 2 million viewers averaging. Take that, LIV. Well, news came out later in that week that LIV Golf's Mayakoba tournament on the CW actually averaged 3 million views for the tournament. I looked up an article by Sports Illustrated, so this is, I think, legit. This is not some wacky blogger site like I do not have myself. Anyways, LIV Golf had like 1.6 million, dang it, views on Saturday in the second round. And on the final round, Sunday, they had 1.3 million viewers watching the CW, which is a lot more than the $300,000 views that everyone likes to point out. And also, I find it funny how absolutely nobody's talking about it. The pro-monopoly, anti-PGA Tour media isn't talking about it. The golf fandom isn't really talking about it. I mean, on the subreddit, the r/golf, I saw a post about, oh look, LIV only has 200,000 viewers. Didn't see anything about them actually having 3 million viewers. And also the CW app, which is completely free, and you can watch all the LIV Golf on that. Had downloads of like 1 million people around the time of the tournament. And so it looks like thus far it's been a good deal for the CW to sign LIV Golf. I thought it was a good deal for the CW, not great for LIV, but it might actually be better than first thought. So congratulations to them. And of course, nobody else is going to talk about it, so I just did. This has been Roughing the Passer. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Let me know your thoughts on all these topics that we've talked about, where you think Lamar Jackson's going, whether or not Lamar should re-sign with the Ravens or the Ravens should re-sign with Lamar, whether or not the Saints made a great deal. Is the PGA Tour completely hypocritical for calling out LIV Golf when they do the same things themselves? And do you find it hilarious, interesting? Whatever. What are your thoughts on LIV Golf averaging 3 million viewers for their first tournament of the year? I thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button and share it with your friends and family, and maybe they'll like it. Hit the subscribe button to see all future uploads, and hit the bell to stay notified when those uploads have been uploaded. I am your host, Sam Ruffing. I thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. Sayonara.